And we now welcome in Ole Miss head coach Chris Beard. And Chris Beard is somebody who obviously loves taking on tall tasks. And Chris, welcome. Now, you had a tall task, obviously, a couple of years ago when you decided to give up beer for the season. And I'm curious, now that you have conquered what you've conquered at Ole Miss, what was more difficult? Not drinking a beer throughout the course of a college basketball season or taking Ole Miss to the Sweet 16?
Yeah, both challenging, but neither really difficult. It's all about discipline at the end of the day.
Chris, you've been a Division I head coach for just 10 years, but, you have led 4 different Division I programs to a win in the NCAA tournament. How have you done it?
Good players. That's always the common denominator in this sport. I know a lot of times the coaches and programs get a lot of attention, but the bottom line, it's a players' game. We had great players at Little Rock, great players at Texas Tech, great players at Texas, and same deal here. We got really good players that have all bought in. They're playing together, and that's why we're in the Sweet 16.
How is being the head coach at Ole Miss different than being the head coach at Texas, Texas Tech, or Little Rock?
Yeah, I think every job is different, and Ole Miss is just a special place. It starts with where we all live. We live in Oxford, one of, if not the best college town in our country. We live in a really cool state too. Like the Mississippi coast. We've got beaches in the water, capital city of Jackson, and of course, college towns. Kind of state divided. Great rivalry with us and Mississippi State. Really good basketball in Mississippi, junior college, high school. So it's a really cool place to live, and a lot of really cool people down here.
And, you've done a lot of really cool things in your career. And I can tell, obviously, throughout our conversations that the one thing that really brings out the emotions from a basketball perspective when the topic comes up are your teams at Texas Tech in 18 and 19 that went to the Elite Eight and the national title game. I'm now curious, because this Ole Miss team is at this point. How does this Ole Miss team compare to those teams at Texas Tech in 2018 and 2019?
Yeah, we think about that from time to time, not just the Texas Tech teams, but all our teams that have won championships. We've shown this year's Ole Miss team film of our Little Rock run, of our Texas NCAA tournament team, of course, of the Texas Tech team. So I think similarities between these two teams, just off the top of my head, a lot of older guys that we try to get it done in a quick setting. Certainly with Matt and Tariq back in the days being 1 year kind of portal guys before the portal. The grad transfer rule was kind of what started all this. So this year's Ole Miss team, we've obviously got a lot of 1 year players, first year players. And the biggest positive has been where we've gone from the very first day of our journey, first day of summer workouts to this morning's practice. We've just continued to get a little bit better each day. And I told the guys this week in preparation, are we ready to beat Michigan State today? Probably not. But the game's not till Friday night, and we have to embrace the time that we have between now and tip to just keep getting better.
Well, and obviously, to have a chance to win games like you're going to try and win Friday night, you need to have great guard play. And you have one of the more under-the-radar guards left in the tournament and one of the more under-the-radar guards in the country in Sean Pedulla. Why has the marriage between Chris Beard and Sean Pedulla been such a good one?
Yeah, I think both sides have been willing to listen more than talk. I know in the recruiting process, I really tried to get to know Sean and exactly what he was looking for. And I think he did the same. I think he understood exactly what we were trying to do at Ole Miss. So both sides have really listened. I'd like to think that we brought the best out of Sean. And he was a really good player for Mike at Virginia Tech. So we weren't trying to reinvent the wheel. We were just trying to make him his most aggressive self and maybe add a few things to his game, both mentally and physically. The other thing about Sean is the players that are around him. Juju, Matt, Barnes, Klafke, the guys that are in that backcourt with him are a big part of Sean's success. And I know he'd be the first to tell you that.
Well, one thing you'll say about Sean Pedulla is he's definitely not a fraud. And, prior to the NCAA tournament, a member of the CBS Sports family, Tim Doyle, said that Ole Miss was a fraud. Did you use that as motivation for your team at all entering March Madness?
Yes, we did. The first time that I was asked about it was at a press conference locally, and I wasn't aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when I said we haven't spent a second talking about it, that was the truth at the time. But after kind of educating myself through others about that. Yeah, of course we talked about it. And, at the end of the day, I don't know, maybe the guy was trying to do us a favor. Maybe he's a closet Ole Miss fan, just doesn't want to tell anybody. So, I understand it's Ole Miss, it's not blue blood. So
Man.
those guys that sit there in the fancy suits in the studio, that have never been to Oxford for a practice, to my knowledge, have never seen us play live. They get paid to stir the pot a little bit. So above all, we say thank you. We say thank you for, all publicity is good publicity. And, there's no doubt about it. Our guys are looking for that chip. They're looking for that fuel, and it comes from all over. I know Andy Katz, somebody I respect a lot. He's got a 16 of 16, and that's been on our locker room bulletin board this week as well.
You can't be a fraud if you navigate the SEC conference this year, which has been, unequivocally the best power conference in the history of college basketball, 7 out of 16 in the Sweet 16. For somebody like you that is such a great reverence for basketball, what was it like to coach in the SEC this season?
It was awesome. At the end of the day, it's an opportunity. It's pressure is a privilege. That's like a bumper sticker, but it really is true. This is why you sign up for this. When I got into coaching, it was to coach the best players on the highest stage.
Mm-hmm.
And these players are looking to play on the highest stage. So as hard as the SEC is, the grueling 2 games a week and all that, I mean, when coaches start whining about that, they ought to get another job. I mean, there's not another coach in the country that wouldn't want to coach in the SEC, where every night's a tier 1 game. Every night's an opportunity. And so, yeah, there's a lot of dark days during the journey, but just to remind yourself each morning when your day starts and each evening when your day ends, I mean, this is a blessing. Like, if you can compete in the SEC, you can compete in the NCAA tournament. And I think that's true with us. I mean, we look at the 16 teams left around the country. We've beaten a lot of them.
Well, we talk about the coaching in the SEC, and obviously it was top tier all season long. I think now with Sean Miller going to Texas, 9 of the active 16 head coaches in the SEC have all at least taken a team to the Elite Eight. But you're going up against somebody on Friday night in Tom Izzo, who in a lot of ways is the dean of the college basketball coaching profession. I know you coached against Coach Izzo 6 years ago in the Final Four. How would you describe your emotions as you're getting set to trade blows with one of the best to ever do it?
Yeah, well, it's not going to be me and Coach playing. If we played one-on-one at the top of the key, that'd be a different deal. So it's going to be his team versus ours. But I mean, let's just keep it real. No fluff here. Whenever you have a chance to compete against the best, it's an opportunity for your program. It's more than a game. How can we stack up with these teams that are programs, not just teams? So I think Coach is one of the best that's ever done this. He's on my Mount Rushmore. He's adapted over the years. College basketball has changed in his 30-plus year career. Recently, name, image, and likeness, portal. What's the common denominator of Michigan State? Coach Izzo. He can adapt. He's changed, but at the same time, he's stayed true to his values of team, defense, rebounding, culture. And so, yeah, it's a challenge. We're looking forward to it. We'll have to play our best game of the year, period. It'll have to be 40 minutes of the best we can play to be in the game. But I'm confident our guys understand that. And if we can play well, it should be a classic March basketball game.
How do you beat Michigan State on Friday?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to match their toughness. I don't think you can out-tough them. You have to match it. That's, running the floor when you're tired. That's 50-50 balls, rebounding, screening, and cutting. The mental toughness involved with the long game. And so that's the first thing. Over the years, we have felt like from time to time, we can out-tough an opponent. That's not our objective in this game. We're trying to match their toughness the best we can, turn it into a basketball game, and then, try to execute our game plan to give us a chance to win the game.
Chris, you were obviously a pupil of the late, great Bob Knight, and, I know he had a profound impact on your coaching career. As you get set to play these big-time games in March, what are the biggest things that you've taken from Coach Knight that you now implement to your old teams?
Yeah, I think the bottom line, big picture, when I think of Coach and Pat, preparation always comes to mind. One, making sure your team's prepared in every way possible. That's my job, our staff's job. And then number 2, just play with that confidence on the biggest stage. I thought Coach Knight's teams were always prepared. and we were always confident in NCAA tournament games. We felt like if we executed our game plan, our identity, then we had a chance to win any game.
Final thing, you already have coached in a Final Four, and I know that all coaches who have coached in the Final Four, that's all they think about in terms of their goals. Now that you're 2 games away from getting back, what is it like for you just personally to be just maybe 80 minutes away from getting where you went in Texas Tech with Texas Tech in 2019?
Yeah, I just think about the opportunity for the players. Certainly the Final Four changes people's lives. Like I think we have players in our team right now. If we make a Final Four, you'll see their names on draft boards. But the reality is today, that path hasn't opened yet. So we all know what the Final Four does for players, for coaches, for fan bases, for programs, for administrations, for collectives. And so, yeah, to be 80 minutes away from that, it is an ultimate goal of ours. We don't spend any time talking about that with our program. We just go next game up. We've got a 4-team tournament in Atlanta. The biggest game is the first game in the tournament. But to answer the question, I mean, yeah, it's why we all do this. You want to win a national championship. There's no way to get the Monday night if you're not in the Final Four.
Chris, appreciate a couple of minutes. Safe travels to Atlanta, and as always, look forward to staying connected along the way.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
You got it. It's Ole Miss head coach Chris Beard. I'm Jon Rothstein. Remember, this is March.